Alright guys, so we've got a 2001 Chevrolet Silverado that this is getting the infamous knock sensor codes, and this truck's got a little over 200,000 miles on it. So we're going to put knock sensors in, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this plenum off. Basically all you got this 8mm here, you got an 8mm here, and then you got these hoses right here. This hose clips out of there, and then you can either unclip this radiator hose. Well, it's already unclipped. You can unclip it right here. You can just pull it out of the little Christmas tree push in clip there. All I'm going to do is just loosen these up right here. And that should pop off like that. And that should pop off. I think, yep, I don't see anything else. Lay that off to the side, and then you got your little 8mm right there. We're going to take off to get this upper shroud off, and that'll open up the top of that engine for us. Now some of these are drive-by-wire depending on the exact year and model, so you may or may not have cables right here. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, let me get the camera set up. This should be a pretty quick and easy process. So we're going to get after it. I think the first thing I'm going to do is just unclip the throttle body. To get this little piece off, you've got this little plastic retainer. You just pull, you take a little screwdriver and you pull up on it out of this little slot. Then you can pull this completely off. Now this cable's easy to do. Not that other one. Not that that other one wasn't. All you got to do here is pull up on the cable and then work that out of there. Now you can lay this whole cable assembly off to the side, because the next step I'm going to unbolt the throttle body and just let it dangle here. A couple different ways you can go about this. Some people will leave the throttle body attached, disconnect the coolant hoses underneath. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to let it dangle. I'm going to disconnect these connectors right here. Very easy to do. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the alternator because it's kind of tied in with the same harness. Whenever we lay that harness out of the way, we don't want anything kind of holding us up. Looks like this evap line needs to be disconnected. You got a little white catch here. If you push in on it, it releases it to where you can pull that off. All right. Have you a little magnetic tray or something to throw your hardware in so you don't lose them. Now that whole thing will be out of our way. Let's see here. This is my first time taking an intake off one of these, so this will be a good gauge for you if you're wanting to know how long it'll take you. So you can leave this connected to the harness. That bracket's only held on with one nut. I'm going to go ahead and reach back here and disconnect the map sensor. Okay. Now right here is your knock sensor connector. Right now I'm just getting the injectors unplugged. You got this little clip. It's easiest if you just pull this completely out of the way. Then you can push the little retention button and unplug the injector. I'm going to disconnect this hose right here real quick. Pulling these tabs off, get them completely out of my way. That way you don't have to fight with them. I usually just pull the connector straight out of the brake booster instead of having to worry about this clamp. This thing will just pull back out. When you're ready to go back in, it'll just push right back in. And I think that we are about ready to disconnect the fuel line. Got a little safety clip that you need to take off. I'm going to go ahead and bleed the system right here. Just pushing in on that Schrader, letting any residual fuel bleed off. Get me a release tool. This is probably going to be the only tool that you really are going to need to buy that you may not have. And the reason you want the proper tool for this is there's been cars that have caught on fire because they've reached in here, they've used screwdrivers or whatever they had to depress the little ears, and they messed them up to where when they put the fuel line back on, they weren't 100% clipped back in because they had deformed the little locking tabs. Then they're driving down the road the next day or even a month or two later, and then all of a sudden that fuel line pops off and starts spraying fuel, and your ignition coils are all right here, and there's been a lot of cars caught on fire that way. So make sure you do use the right tool. These things are very cheap. They come in a, well, you can buy them individually, but they also come in a set. And that way you don't mess those ears up. Let me zoom in on those ears. Well, you may be able to see them pretty good. Yeah. You see that ear right there? You don't want to mess those up to where they won't lock in anymore. And people have reached in there because they're, you know, they're ready to get it done. They realize they don't have the right tool, and they reach in there with screwdrivers or whatever they got, and they push those ears down and they deform them. You don't want to be one of those people. Alright, so I think that's it, except for the intake bolts. Oh, throttle bar. I still got to disconnect the throttle bar. I think on this one there's only 3 bolts. 10mm. Another nut. I'm just going to let that hang out there. Now if you're going to reuse this gasket like I am, make sure that it's still pliable. This one is still nice and rubbery and soft and pliable, and it's still standing proud of the mating surface. The surface on back of the throttle body is just a flat machined surface, so it just smashes up against that. I mean, I'd recommend replacing it, but I don't think it came in the kit that I got, so I'm not going to worry about it. And I've reused those throttle body gaskets 100 times, and I haven't had any problem with them. Like I say, this vehicle's got 200,000 miles, and this gasket is still nice and soft and pliable. So that's all you need. You need it to sit. There's no real pressure on that. Alright, the fuel rail and everything comes up with the intake. So intake bolts are 5mm. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do now is take me some air and just blow it out in case there's any loose chunks laying down there. I'm not going to clip the fuel line on, but I'm going to stick it on so I don't blow any kind of debris in it. Probably would have been a good idea to do that right off the bat. Okay, I think we're ready to pull this thing off. Oh, there's an EGR tube. EGR tube we got to take off on this model over here on the side. Now it looks like about the only thing you're really going to have to be wary of is this evap line has to go underneath this part right here. Okay, there's another fuel line. I didn't see it. Got to get the return and the pressure. I didn't even pay attention to the other fuel line. Some vehicles have a return, some don't. Of course, it's always a good idea to stuff your intake ports with rags, just to make sure you don't drop anything major down in there. So I'm going to be blowing all this out too. Yep. Full of water. The way you get these off, you just pinch right here. Pinch right there, and then pull straight up. And it's a good idea, I mean, especially with a vehicle with this amount of mileage. Replace the harness, because the harness, I don't know if there's a service bolt-on. I think there's a service bolt-on on it. They go bad. In fact, the service bulletin has you building up a little dam with RTV right here, which I'm not going to do. Because first, I don't know how effective it really is. But second, I am going to RTV these new plugs in, but this thing lasted 200,000 miles. The chances of this still being around 200,000 miles from now is pretty slim. So I'm sure that this thing will be in the junkyard before these things go bad again. So now we got to unscrew the NOx sensors. They shouldn't be in there just real tight. That's what happens to them. Now this only had a code for one NOx sensor. I can't remember which one it was. But you can see that both of them are pretty rusted. There's no Loctite or anything like that needed on these. They're in a closed cavity. There's no oil pressure or oil or water or anything like that that you have to worry about sealing up with these. So you don't have to put sealant or anything like that on it. Now the one thing you may want to do, because these have such a problem, and there's, I mean, I'm not going to say they're just a tremendous pain to get to, you do want to go in with quality parts. Don't go in with, you can actually buy a kit that's got 2 China-made NOx sensors and the harness for like $30. The problem is you get it all installed, and then you know, the next day, or maybe right when you start it up, you find out that it was such junk that it's not working. Or you're a month down the road, you think everything's great, then your check engine light comes on, you check it, and you got the same code for one of the NOx sensors because you put a China part in. Now, with that said, you may also put the China parts in and they last forever. Now I'm going to put the part numbers. I got 2 different NOx sensors here, and let me tell you what the story is with them. I wanted to go with OEM. The OEM is Delphi, which is this one right here. Don't know if you're going to be able to pick that up or not. The box that this one came in literally says made in Texas. So now I'm not gonna lie, this one was $40. The other one I got is a ACDelco. Came in a bag. This one's made in Mexico. This one was $39. hopefully they're both quality, you know, pieces. This is ACDelco. There's the part number on it if you can see it. I'll put the link to both these. I'd recommend going with the Delphi. They're made in Texas, so you're at least supporting Texas or America, and the chances of this one being a better quality is obviously a lot higher. Zoom you in a little bit. I'm not going to worry about torquing them. I'm just going to snug them up. If you need to know the torque, let me know in the comments. I'll post it. If I think about it, I'll post it in the description. But you just snug it up. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I know a lot of people, they're worried about torques, and I don't blame you. But that's about all you need right there. I'm just going to smear a little RTV around them. That way when these things pop into their little pockets, hopefully that RTV will help seal them up. Now before I get this all put back together, I'm just going to make sure that we have some kind of a reading here. $100,000 ohms, 99.8 thousand ohms. Show you what I'm doing. You don't want to get it all put back together and find out that the harness or new sensors right out of the gate is bad. So I'm just gonna, hopefully you can see that's 100.7 thousand. $99.9 thousand. That at least assures you that you've got a connection, you know, on the harness and the knock sensors. Okay, let me kind of route this where it needs to go. Alright, and that's just a matter of cleaning this up a little bit, getting that intake put back on. Now the intake gaskets they're easy to take off. That's one thing that GM really did good, is there's just these little clips. You just pull out on them and the gasket's off. Clean the mating surface off, then I'll blow it out with air. Then we'll be ready to go back on. And there you have it. Same thing on this side. Okay, so remember, about the only thing that we really have to kind of fight is feeding this through and the EGR tube. That should be about it. And then once we get the intake laid down in there, everything else will just be hooking everything back up. Oh, I did put the new gasket. There's a gasket that comes with the kit. I did put it right here on the EGR tube. So, if you got a new gasket, put that on. I think we're about there. Alright, so the intake is in place. I'm just going to snug up the bolt starting from the inside out. I'm not going to tighten anything up yet. I'll do that by hand. Well, I might set my screw gun here down to a low enough torque to where I can just snug them all the way up until it ratchets. And then I'll finish them off by hand. And we'll go that route. Alright, so they're all snugged up. I'm going to get my hand ratchet, wherever I put it. There it is. And we're just going to do the rest of these by hand, or snug them up by hand. I'm not going to use a torque wrench. I'll put the torques for you if I think about it. They don't get tightened up just real tight. That should have done that. Make sure you get both your fuel lines on real good. I'm going to wait on that throttle body so I can blow everything out real good. Make sure you get your injectors on correctly. I'm gonna get everything kind of positioned over here. Then I'm gonna install these little locking clips for the injectors later. Map sensor connector back here in the back. Alternator connector, purge solenoid connector. I'll get the throttle body connectors here in a second. Got this little line right here, this tube. Alright, we're almost there. Okay, I'm going to get the other side of the injectors. The EGR tube. And we'll be almost finished. Okay, got all the little safety clips on that side. I'm going to go over here on this side. Alright, all the safety clips are on. Locking clips, whatever you want to call them. Get the CGR tube pushed in here. I think the only thing we got left, guys, is the throttle body. And like I say, just make sure that your throttle body rubber gasket is nice and soft and pliable, and you should be okay. I was wanting to blow that out, wasn't I? Now, That'll be alright. I accounted for all my nuts and bolts, so that's another thing you want to do. If you're missing something small enough that could have fell down into the intake, you might want to make sure you can find that, especially if it's metal. Doesn't take much, just snug them up, put both your connectors on. I'm going to try to give you a close-up of this. That way you're not having to guess exactly how this is going. This is for the cable side. Okay, so there's that. This other piece, you got this little plastic lock that goes in there. Once I get it snapped all the way in here, there. There we go. So you got this little plastic lock right here. And that's what snaps this piece onto that stud. So that's how you do that. The only thing we got left now is the intake. What did I say? The intake is the plenum. Then we'll start it up, clear any codes, go from there. Altogether, I've probably been on this an hour, so this was my first time of doing this. And I've still got to tighten this nut up right there. Thanks for reminding me about that, fellas. I would have missed that. What else have I forgot? I think everything else important is tight. Throttle body's on. I think all the connectors are connected. The hoses are hooked back up. And if you got everything hooked up right, it'll start up and run. Alright. Start it up before my battery runs down. kit. All that's left is the cover right there, and then cleaning up. I've still got to clear the codes. Well, the check engine light's off now, so it may have been self-clearing. Anyway, this was knock sensors. This is a 2001 Chevrolet Silverado 5.3 liter. Replaced both knock sensors in the harness. This thing's got a couple 100,000 miles on it. So hopefully those knock sensors will last another couple 100,000. Anyway, we're done. You guys take care. We'll see you in the next one.